Hello and welcome to the work in progress video for the second coursework of the Advanced Interactive Media Development module. Before we start, I should state that the original Unity project that I created the first coursework on ran into some issues regarding timers, in that the second timer that I made had a while block in a fungus flowchart without an end command, and when I tried to run this, it created an error that, even after resolution, prevented the creation of any new timers. In this new project, some changes were made to the flowcharts in order to handle multiple customers, and to this effect, a few C# scripts were created to facilitate this function as well. So you can see a few of them here. In our current project, the container cafe has been imported, and some of the lights required have been added. For example, for what appears to be the floodlights, some area lights have been added, and inside some spotlights have been added at the light fixtures as well. A few invisible walls were also created to limit players to the cafe area. A few background elements will be added in the future as well. Just to demonstrate our invisible walls. In our current state, you might notice, the character cannot move beyond a certain point in the project or in the scene. In our current state, the waiter role of our character remains the same, acting as a communicator between the customers and the kitchen staff. However, now the customer, when placing their order, will choose between one of 3 different food and beverage options. The player must keep in mind the customer's exact order as well as the order in which he collected these orders if there are multiple customers. By which I mean, if there are multiple customers, let's say one here and one here, if the player collects customer A, let's say this is customer A, if he collects customer A's order first and then goes and collects customer B's order, when recalling the orders back to the kitchen staff, he should remember that to give A's orders first and then B's order. So he says he would like to have a burger for his meal as well as some water to drink. When relaying this to the kitchen staff, we have one of 3 options to select from. We have 3 options to select from. So he wanted a burger and he wanted water. Once this is done, we go to the collection window where the finished order will appear. We click on it to collect it, and then we go and hand it over to the customer. Alright, so some visible issues that need to be addressed currently are the fact that the repeat trigger that the player uses when speaking to the customer or when speaking to the kitchen staff is repeatedly hit when the player is within range. In the previous project, this issue was resolved by a UI button that could be pressed to start the flowchart. In this case, if multiple customers are to be implemented, especially if they are not grouped by table, meaning that if 4 different customers are seated at this grouping of chairs, each customer would have an individual order to be placed, and you'd have to speak to each customer individually. It's not as simple as pressing maybe a bell or a button on a center table and receiving all of their orders at once. So yeah, if they are not grouped by table, the UI button is not feasible as it is currently attached to the player object and not to the customer, and it is inconvenient to write a script to identify the collider that activated the button. Instead, a sphere object will appear over a customer's head when approached, indicating their current state. For example, a white sphere might appear at this point, and clicking on that sphere would begin our interaction with the customer. Once the order has been collected, perhaps the sphere could have an hourglass symbol on it, as well as maybe be color-coded to indicate how much time the customer has waited. For example, green if he's waited less than 10 seconds, then yellow between 10 and 20 seconds, and if he's waited for more than 20 seconds, it could turn red. Speaking of UI, that component is to be added as well in the form of a heads-up display instead of the iPad idea. This will store the state of orders as well as give timers remaining for each of them. It is actually planned to have an order limit of 3. Currently, under the structure made, it is possible to have an infinite number of customer orders placed. However, to create a certain limit, of course, we will, to create an arbitrary limit, we will have an order limit of 3, and as such, 3 order statuses will appear on the top left corner of the screen when active. For example, when he takes one customer's order, maybe one box will appear here stating the current stating the current order state. If he collects from another customer, the second order will appear here. And upon fulfilling those orders, the order boxes should disappear as well. Finally, some table models could be added as well as some new textures and lighting to improve the current appearance of the scene. In terms of future improvements, a possible scoring system involving customer satisfaction could be added, though it will not be visible to the player beyond the final score at the end of the game. Once a customer is complete, i.e., all necessary UI components added and adjustments made, it will be converted to a prefab which will be used by a flowchart to spawn customers into the game as well. This concludes the work in progress video. Thank you for watching.